Welcome back to this chapter by chapter series of The Way of the Superior Man, a good little book journey where we're going through, obviously, chapter by chapter and breaking it down. So the last one we had was, I think it was video 5 with the 4th chapter, Know Your Real Edge and Don't Fake It. Today we're going to go to Always Hold to Your Deepest Realization. So if you haven't gotten the book already, I really suggest you go and get it. Links are in the bio or the audiobook as well. And let's just jump into it. All right. Always hold to your deepest realization. Eternity must be a man's home, moment by moment. Without it, he is lost, always striving, grasping at puffs of smoke. A man must do anything necessary to glimpse and then stabilize this ever-fresh realization and organize his life around it. So when I say that this gets spiritual, this is a little bit esoteric to start thinking about. And by esoteric, I mean it's a little out there. It's a little weird, right? A man must do anything necessary to glimpse and then stabilizing this ever-fresh realization. Eternity must be a man's home, moment by moment. Eternity. Now, when I think of eternity, I start thinking about those moments of possibility, when a new idea comes, when a new creation can come, when a new realization can come, when a new intuition of what I can bring into life comes through me. That's when it feels endless, feels this possibility. And that is the closest thing I think that David Deida is talking about. But let me continue reading the chapter and you can see if you believe in the same thing as well. Make your life an ongoing process of being who you are, at your deepest, most easeful levels of being. Everything other than this process is secondary. Your job, your children, your wife, your money, your artistic creations, your pleasures, they are all superficial and empty if they are not floating in the deep sea of your conscious loving. Now, I feel like that's a really hard thing for most people to grasp. Because outside of your job, your children, your wife, your money, your artistic creations, your pleasures, what is there? Isn't that life? Isn't that all there is? And to say then they are superficial and empty if they are not floating in the deep sea of your conscious loving. So almost that they are I could then take it that every single one of those things is both superficial and empty and also at the same time the deepest form of who we are. If they have this level of eternity that David Deida is talking about. How many hours a day today was your attention focused in the realms of changes on events, people, thoughts, and experiences? And how often was your attention relaxed into its source? Where is your attention right now? Can you feel its source? Even for a moment, can you feel that which makes attention conscious and aware? Can you feel the deepest nature of attention? What happens when you simply, effortlessly allow attention to subside into its source? This chapter challenges me. This source is never changing and always present. It is the constant silent tone behind and pervading the music of life. Feel into its source as deeply as possible and then reapproach your work, intimacy, family, and creative efforts. When you make money from this source. Find out what happens to the details of your life when you live more consistently from this source. Use aids to support your relaxation into and creation from this source. Someone just tapping on the door. If you are like most men, you have strong habits that rivet your attention into the events and tasks of the day. Days and nights fly by for years, and life slips through your fingers. Your attention absorbed in the seeming world of necessary responsibilities. But all of it is empty if we do not live our responsibilities as expressions of our depth of being and heart truth. Interesting. That young girl, a child, just knocked on the door behind. And it took me completely out of source, what I can imagine source, from reading this book to you, into there's a little bit of self-consciousness, a little bit of people can see me here in my co-working in the town that I live in, and obviously, want to interact in that way. And thoughts of, do I care about how I look? How much I act and do? Do I worry? It's a very good thought here because it's actually just jumped me out of this, what I can imagine, a closer version to this source that David Deida talks about. And I guess the source is just being really full and present. But why does he use the word source rather than presence, rather than meditation? I mean, he uses the word meditation. Read books that remind you of who you are in truth. Spend time with people who inspire and reflect source to you. Meditate, contemplate, or pray daily so that you steep yourself in its source. Even if you find yourself in some trivial moment watching TV or cleaning up a mess in the kitchen, feel the truth of who you are. Feel the boundless cognizance in which each instant seems and vanishes. All moments are the same intensity of clarity, completeness, and humor when you meet each moment with your deepest realization. Nothing that has ever happened has made any difference to the one who you are. I will struggle with this chapter. You know, I've been engrossed within spirituality since I was young. And there's always been this idea that there is a source, you know, an energy that we all tap into and everything like that. But my purpose and what I really want to get to is accessible wisdom. You know, like, how do I translate this untranslatable, this source, into something that we can all understand? And do we need to? Do we even need to translate that? Because I look at masculine energy and I look at the whole reason why I'm doing this book journey, and I'm learning so much while doing it, but I'm also able to teach while I'm doing it, which is fantastic. This line here from him: know eternity, do whatever it takes, and from this depth of being, live the details of your life. But if you postpone the process of submerging yourself in the source for the sake of taking care of business first, your life will be spent in hours and days of business, and then it will be gone. Only if you are well grounded in that which is larger than life will you be able to play life with humor, knowing that each task is a mirage of necessity. Some beautiful lines there in this chapter, and I really feel like this chapter goes further away from pure the way of the superior man. I mean, this is the way of the human. The way of the superior human. It has nothing really to do with man and woman on this chapter. This chapter is meaning of life type of shit. It's meaning of existence type of shit. It's essentially religion, spirituality. And I don't reject it in any sense. I aim to embrace as much as I can of it. There's an interesting thing that I was doing recently, and I've been very fascinated with, is I've noticed that a lot of people lately are becoming a lot more Christian. And there are a lot of people who are pushing Christianity a lot. And then some people pushing, you know, Buddhism, and some people pushing Hinduism, some people pushing, you know, Islam. But religion seems to be coming back. And the interesting thing is most people who are religious seem to have happier lives than people who are atheists. Now, I would not say that I am religious. I would say that I grew up within a spiritual doctrine, even though I was probably born, I'm Italian. My father was Italian, but I grew up in Australia and I went to Catholic school. But that doesn't really jump in. But I've noticed a lot of people being really happy when they are religious. And the interesting thing about that is then, what if you actually practiced being religious or believing in a God without actually believing in a God? Would you actually be happier? And if you are happier just by believing in God, why don't we all believe in God, right? I'm really fascinated by this idea. Just by the simple fact that if it seems to be working, like, why we might not know the mechanisms of why it works, but it does work, right? I think that's the problem with this, is I believe that there is probably a fundamental truth. There is probably a fundamental truth, which is something along the lines of what David Deida has here, like a source, an energy. And I believe that in order to translate that into our human existence, we give it names in religion, we give it gods, we give it doctrines, we give it rules on how to achieve close to it. And I think that's why people like Jordan Peterson hold so fucking tightly to their religion and their dogma, because it was a translation of a truth. But it is just a translation, right? Almost as if water is poured down and each religion is a tea bag. And as the water goes through the tea bag, it stains into a cup and there's a different flavor to go with different cultures. Now, of course, if you start throwing away the tea, you might throw away the water as well, and you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And it's not about throwing out the water, all right? It's how do we get closer and closer to the pureness of it? Now, what I like about David Deida is he's touching on this, but what I don't like about it is it's not understandable. It's not accessible. Eternity must be a man's home moment by moment. What the fuck does that mean? If I shut up and listen and stop and breathe and present, I feel it. But my brain can sometimes come in and I don't know what that feeling is. Is it merely just calmness? And does it really fucking matter? So yeah, I feel like that chapter is a chapter that you could probably study, meditate, ideate, and work on for centuries. And we would all come up with different answers. And we would all come up with different tea bags of doctrines of how to actually make life and happen. And that's just what religion is. And so that's why I love it. I love this it is spiritual. It is woo-woo. And not in a bad way at all. It's just, it's hard to dissect. And that's okay. I don't know if I want to tackle that yet. I need a little bit more time on this earth, a little bit more time meditating on that feel. And even by meditating, I literally just mean sleeping, living, breathing, and then I'll find some answers for that one. But I will, at one point in my life. Next chapter is actually really cool. We get back to back to the masculine, feminine, yin, yang. Never change your mind just to please a woman. That's pretty fucking cool, that chapter. Can't wait for it. See you all very soon. I'll see you next week. And let me know what you think about the book. Let me know how you're going with it. Would love to know in the comments. Ciao.